in the shop
There's
for
probably
once.
gonna be like 2 or 3 hours.
Did she write out cards? Oh no, I thought she wrote out cards for everyone.
Can I check this off? I'm not gonna use so.
We have another stack coming. I feel like I should start it or stop it and restart it. She hasn't even started.
You got it.
We have some extra.
So before I begin, if you could just take your little check, put it in front of you, write your name if you can. To the order of, you can just put me and the date, and then I will tell you the amount at the end of the speech. Okay, here we go. Okay. According to the list published by the U.S. News and World Report in 2019 of the best education systems in the world, the U.S. ranked number 2, only behind the United Kingdom. Education is one of the most fundamental parts of our society, and it's a lot of the key success that leads to economic success in the future. Before I begin my informational bit, I ask that you keep 2 things. Today I want to talk to you guys about the difference between a private and a public school education. Now, before I begin, I want you to keep 2 things in mind. First of all, when I'm here referring to school and education, I'm pretty much just talking about before college, so elementary, middle, and high school, but more specifically high school. Secondly, I ask that you all take a step back from me and pretend like you're a parent about to send your child to school in the fall. Now, I know that that's in a long time for us, and some of you might not even have children to send to school, but just humor me and pretend like you are. So the first part about sending your kid to public or private school, and this is the determining factor for most people, is cost. Public school is virtually free. You pay no tuition, you go to the school, you go home. There's no check that comes to your door every month. However, that money does have to come from somewhere, and it is paid for by the taxpayers. Actually, according to a 2012 NPR news article by Lanzo, the government spends roughly $10,615 every year to educate just a single public school student. So although you're technically not getting a check in the mail for tuition, you are paying that in taxes. However, one of the most unfortunate parts of public school education is that it's wildly underfunded. There are a lot of issues which, they don't have art programs, and a lot of schools only have like one language, which is normally Spanish, for learning a second language. So although you're not paying any money, you're also kind of receiving the low end sometimes of the better deal. However, private school is extremely expensive, and it's pretty hard to argue with free. According to the Private School Review, a website that offers profiles on the private schools in the United States, tuition alone for private education for a California high school is roughly $18,000, $25,000 in Connecticut, and $21,000 in Vermont in 2018 to 2019 school year. Over 4 years of high school, that can surpass $100,000 in tuition alone, not to mention supplies, uniforms, technology, and having siblings that your parents might also have to educate. Not to mention money. So although these are kind of the downsides of paying, up to $30,000 a year for education, that money is necessary because private schools get zero funding from the government. So every dollar that is spent in your tuition or is given by donors goes directly back into the school because they get zero funding from the government. That being said, a lot of that money is not only used to provide for the necessary things like English, math, and science, but a lot of private schools, especially Catholic or religious-based institutions, offer religious courses, art, philosophy, music, languages like Latin and French and Italian. A lot of luxuries that public schools simply don't have the means or the authority to offer. And if as a parent you're still particularly looking at private schools, most do have scholarships to make it affordable. Secondly, there's also a common myth that the curriculum or the education at a private school is different than a public one, And the studies are actually showing that that's not entirely true. At a public school, especially here in California, there is like California state guidelines to which every school has to follow. And that really focuses on math, science, English, and history, and doesn't leave a lot of room for a lot of the extra, kind of extracurricular kind of classes that I personally would have loved to take. Another thing with public school that is a huge pro is that teachers do have to have proper credentials. At private schools, teachers do not have to have the same credentials as public ones. So you're running the risk of your child potentially being taught by someone who isn't certified to teach that particular subject in the same way as a public school. That being said, private schools do offer a lot smaller class sizes and individual attention to their students, which is really huge. And especially if you have a child, I know none of you children yet, but a lot of people send their children who either have special needs or learning disabilities or just have a harder time kind of in school in general. Private schools are wonderful in catering to the individual and making sure that your child gets to where he or she needs to be. However, that all being said, there is no evidence that private schools produce higher scores on testing for overall educational performance post-graduation. In fact, studies are actually showing that public school students are scoring roughly equally or even higher than their private school counterparts. According to an interpretation by Professor Slavinsky at the Stanford Review, at the University of Chicago of a study conducted by the National Assessment of Educational Progress, and I quote, "Public schools appear to be attaining higher levels of mathematics performance than demographically comparable private school students. And math is thought to be a better indicator of what is taught by schools than, say, reading, which is often influenced directly and indirectly by experiences in the home." Lastly, one of the other things I really wanted to discuss with you all is this culture of elitism and whether it's real or not. So in a private school, one of the biggest reasons why parents like to send their children there is because it is a little bit more sheltered. Children are more likely to be with students who are more like them, come from similar backgrounds, share like-minded views and goals, and are likely motivated. Disciplinary issues are statistically also a little less frequent at private schools, although it's not huge. And from personal experience as well, I can also see that there is a lot of mutual respect between teachers and students at private schools, whereas at public schools there are a lot of more disciplinary issues. However, for lack of better words, private school can simply be fictitious. There are a lot of people who argue that they would never send their child to a private school because it enables a much larger wealth discrepancy gap, because children aren't exposed to other children who might not come from the exact same walk of life. And actually, I read this article from Forbes called "Confessions of a Six-Figure Father: Why I'd Never Send My Kids to Private School," which is a little harsh. He says, quote, "I have no problem with private education except for what it does to public schools." And what he means by that is public schools are becoming less and less popular because parents think that for some reason sending their kid to a private school is going to guarantee them a better future, a more stable base, but as I said, the math and the statistics and the evidence aren't actually in support of that. As prospective parents looking for a potential school to send your child to, California is also a really, really interesting place to be. In most places in the United States, the idea of school choice, which I'm not sure if anyone has heard of it yet, Betsy DeVos is very keen on school choice. It's unheard of. Most people just send their kids to the local public school. For most people in the United States, the idea of public versus private isn't really a huge deal. However, in large urban areas, which California is practically the entire state, school choice is a much larger topic. I hope that my little informational speech gives you an opinion on, and for you to make an informed decision. Now, if you would all look down at your checks for a minute, would you write me an $18,000 check for the tuition of your child